What is up, my good people of the internet? Happy to be here with you, hanging out every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We got an awesome show set up for you today. So excited for the opportunity to be with you as always. And I hope that I'm finding you doing well. If you're having a great day, we're going to keep it rocking. If you're having a so-so day, it's not that great, we're going to make it better to the best of my ability. God is good. If God woke you up today, say amen. So amen here for me. Happy to be here with you. God bless you all. And let's get it. Inside of MonPausPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', we're going to start the broadcast off with, of course, Dolphin Time. Every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, the Dolphins are here, covered in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership, unlike ever before you've seen, with LeMoyne. And we'll start the show off with Nate Champion, LeMoyne Dolphins men's basketball head coach. And speaking of Champion, they got a victory recently here that Nate and I are going to be discussing. That victory over their first ever Division I opponent as a Division I institution. They did it on the West Coast, so they have played D1 institutions before. This is their first D1 win over a D1 team as a D1 program. So we'll talk about that coming up here and more in our special with Nate Champion that's airing today. Then we'll jump in at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time to my conversation live here with Rob Carpenter, Syracuse and New York Jets wide receiver alum, joining me to speak on the hiring of Fran Brown, the importance of alumni, which is something he experienced with the New York Jets over this past weekend, and Syracuse rolling forward, making sure that they're making good decisions. And Fran Brown seems to be one of those huge pieces that they've needed for a long time. So we'll talk with Rob about it. And then, of course, on Wednesdays, we have two videos. So we end the video after the first hour, begin one in the second hour, because fantasy football is so big here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora of many years, and I want people to be able to get to their fantasy information. So we always start a new video in hour two of fantasy football called Fantasy Football in Focus, proudly presented by the wonderful team at the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. So we will get into all of that today after this fast break with Nate Champion special coming up next in a very wonderful spotlight on the Dolphins.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and a very special Dolphin Dive in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the LeMoyne College Dolphins. I am picture in picture with Nate Champion, the head coach of LeMoyne's men's basketball team. And Nate, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Absolutely. And Nate, I mean, you've had the opportunity to be on the road. You had a long road stint on the West Coast in the state of California, had the opportunity to play a bunch of different teams out there and made some history while you were out there. And so I want to definitely congratulate you first and foremost on that. You got a victory over SUNY Canton at home, and then you went on the road to play the University of San Diego, University of California, Santa Barbara, so UCSB, then CSUN and the University of the Pacific. 4 games on the West Coast in the state of California. The win over CSUN marks the first win for LeMoyne as a D1 program over a D1 opponent. So first and foremost, congratulations, and I'd love to get your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, thanks. Obviously, the game against CSUN is a big deal, or at least I've been told. No, it's great. I think it's just it's an awesome, achievement for our program and for the school as well, but also for our kids. I mean, our student athletes, not only were making the trip to the West Coast, but they're, still in classes and studying in study halls and the hotels and all that stuff that doesn't get seen. And for them to go out and get better each time we stepped on the floor, I think, shows a lot about just the type of players that we have. And, I thought in those games we had chances to, get more than one win, which we didn't end up getting. But in the CSUN game, I just loved how hard we played. We played extremely hard. We found ways to keep the lead and to end up with a victory. And at the end of the day, you look back at it, and when the effort is there and guys are doing the right things, usually good things happen. And so we just tried to bottle that up and continue to improve each time we step out.
Yeah, I mean, we look at those 4 games that were in the state of California. I mean, outside of the UCSB game, you look at University of San Diego, the first game that you had on the West Coast, and 80-71 in a game where you were firing on all cylinders and definitely gave yourselves an opportunity. University of the Pacific, right after the CSUN win, a 2-point game. So, when we come back from the West Coast, we talk about LeMoyne men's basketball, there's 1 win in 4 games. However, I imagine as a coach, when you look back and you see those games that you had, especially against Pacific and San Diego, there's a lot more wins that I think can happen from those games that can translate hopefully in NEC play and as you move forward in general, because you were so far away from home. You're in Division I for the first time, and you pushed 3 teams, not 1 team, 3 teams to situations where they had to find a way to beat you late.
And I think, for us as a team, we look at that as a couple missed opportunities. But, for us, we talk about the process of what the season is and where we need to be at, by the time that conference play starts. And that trip to the West Coast not only, challenged us on the court, but it made us a better unit off the court as well. And so for us to continue to improve and to continue to grow as a team, I think is something that we talk about frequently. And we can't be satisfied with just a win against CSUN. I think um, the biggest thing that we saw was just the ability to compete at that level and show that we belong at that level. And now it's time to go and get some wins, and we need to have that same hunger and the same urgency now that we're back here on the East Coast.
Yeah, and you're playing a couple New York teams coming up here. You're going to be on the road after your win against Fredonia last night at Ted Grant Court. You are now moving on to West Point to play Army. And after that, a few days later, you will start in what's being called the Battle for the Interstate. And there will be a Battle for the Interstate trophy that looks like the state of New York. There's going to be some t shirts. There's going to be some fun here with the school that is also green and is located just an hour away from LeMoyne College. So I know that you're going to Binghamton this year. Binghamton will come to you next year. What can you say about these two upcoming games in New York and the fact that we have a little mini Battle of the Interstate rivalry thing that could present some fun? And anytime there's a trophy up, I know that there's some excitement for that.
Yeah, I mean, first off, Army is a really good team that just hasn't got the results they want. I mean, they played Indiana to an 8-point game, a really good Quinnipiac team to a 9-point game. Albany was playing really well to a 3-point game, so they're really hungry for a win. And for us, that's going to be a big challenge to go on the road to their place and to try and get a win there. There's no rest for the weary for sure with our schedule. And, but it's a great opportunity for us to see, how much better we've gotten since the Pacific game and what we've learned from there and how we took Fredonia and what we can do better as well. So, for us, I think we look at these as guaranteed opportunities to play, and when we take that approach, we have to try and maximize the opportunity that we're given. We don't know if, I mean, I've been a part of a COVID year, so anything can happen where, the next opportunity isn't always promised, but for us, next Tuesday is, and we got to really take a look at that first and take that one, as seriously as we can and be ready to go because they're a good team that just, to be honest, hasn't been on the right side of a lot of close games. And then as far as Binghamton, I mean, I think it's just something that, when you start looking at the opportunities that are presented at the Division I level compared to where we were last year at Division II, it's not necessarily the level of play all the time, but the publicity and the national recognition that you can get as a program is much larger. And people, right now it's all about all your information's at your fingertips with technology and the way that it is now. And, you can flip on your CBS Sports app or your ESPN app and, LeMoyne's right there where we weren't there last year. So for us to have an opportunity to play Binghamton, who's a really good team and presents, great opportunity for us to hopefully showcase what we're about, on the road at their place this year. And then obviously returning next year, it could be a great little rivalry that we can create and another great opportunity for LeMoyne to capitalize on the move to Division I.
A decade ago, you were playing for the LeMoyne Dolphins, coaching them these last few years and coaching them from Division II to Division I. What has been the most exciting part of this journey and the fact that LeMoyne has entrusted you with the leadership of this basketball team that you used to be a member of?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot can happen in 10 years. I know the court doesn't look the same, and
Yeah.
there's no more wooden bleachers. So for us, and for me especially, and all my teammates that I played with, it just shows what our leadership team has done here at LeMoyne and where they see LeMoyne growing and going to, and Linda Lemire, our fearless leader as president, she definitely talks about, doing things in much higher standard and being bold with decision making. And I think just what you see from LeMoyne and why we made the move to Division One is because we're not just satisfied with the status quo, and neither she and Bob Beretta is the exact same way. We're always trying to improve and see how we can get better as a school and as an athletic department. And for them to trust me and guiding the men's basketball program through this transition and hopefully beyond that will, it's just, I take it with great pride. And obviously LeMoyne's a special place to me. I've been home for, almost 10 years now. So, 8, I guess this will be 9. So yeah, it's definitely been a second home to me as far as just where a majority of my life has been spent. And, it's a great place and presents great opportunities, both for student athletes, students in general, and also employees.
Are you feeling the D1? Does it feel any different? I know basketball is basketball, but being being traveling, going out and doing different things, facing off against obviously a whole slew of new teams. Do you get a sense for that? Do you and your staff kind of feel that walking through the airport? Is it a different air? Is it exciting, or are you just kind of saying, hey, there are different teams on the schedule, basketball is basketball?
I don't know, man. I'm just a competitor, and the next team that we have, we want to beat them. And that's for me. If that's Georgetown and Villanova, or that's Fredonia or St. Rose or whoever that team is. For me as a coach, I want to make sure our team has the best chance and best opportunity. Now, the arenas and things that we're doing and places we're playing in obviously are a little different, and definitely feel it from that side. But as far as our approach to, leading our team and coaching our team, it's I think it's pretty much basketball is basketball, and at the end of the day, you win or you lose, and we want to be on the winning side of things.
That coming from Nate Champion, LeMoyne Dolphins men's basketball head coach in this edition of Dolphin Dive. Nate, as always, I appreciate you, appreciate our time together. I hope you got some turkey, because I know you're on the West Coast when it was Thanksgiving time, but congratulations on your recent victory. Congratulations on getting 3 victories in these first 8 games, and I can't wait to see what this team's going to do. I think there's some special moments coming. I get that vibe from you and the staff and from the guys. So I look forward to continuing to cover the story, and I thank you as always.
All right. Appreciate it, Dan. Have a good one.
Take care. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait till the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox.
If I had to describe it, I would like to say welcoming and kind of homey. Like, I feel home when I'm here.
Here's a special message from North Star Nutrition in North Syracuse and Nutrition Wave in Cicero on their very unique shakes and teas.
I always ask them, are you looking for a shake or a tea? Like, are you hungry or do you need a little bit of a pick-me-up? And then from there, I normally gear it towards whichever they prefer. So I say we offer full meal replacement shakes. They're 24 grams of protein, 21 vitamins and minerals. So the vitamins and minerals in that shake make it a full meal. And you'll stay full for about 4 or 5 hours. And if they want a tea, then I'll tell them that there's either 115 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. I would compare it to maybe 2 cups of coffee, and I explain all the benefits that are in the tea. Like, they have B vitamins to sustain your energy all day long. They have a tea for mental clarity and focus. They have a thermogenic tea to help boost your metabolism, burn calories. Aloe is great for nutrient absorption and digestion, and I say there's other flavors in it for the pretty colors and flavors. I always ask them, like, what's your favorite lollipop flavor? And then I'll go from there, and I'm like, well, believe it or not, there's less than a gram of sugar, and it's good for you. The shakes, I say it's like your favorite candy bar or your favorite ice cream because you've had them. It genuinely does not taste like a regular protein shake. This was the first yes that I've ever given because I've always been like too shy or too scared to like talk to people or anything, and this just kind of really opened me up. I've stayed here so long because I just love seeing everybody's faces, having them like sit down at the bar and just telling us little tidbits about their life. You really have no idea what's going on in other people's life, and I feel like this job specifically really puts it into perspective and just kind of helps you enjoy other people's presence. As like a young adult and as a person, I have learned so much working here. Like, to me, it's way more than just shakes and teas.
For healthy drinks that taste amazing in a welcoming atmosphere, head to North Star Nutrition on 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse and Nutrition Wave on 6197 State Route 31 in Cicero. Open 7 days a week at each location. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And happy to be picture-in-picture with this gentleman right now here on the broadcast, Rob Carpenter, joining me here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Rob Carpenter, Syracuse and NFL history. Syracuse Orange wide receiver alum who went on to the New York Jets and was honored recently by the Jets on the big screen. Mr. Carpenter, how we doing?
Hey, what's going on, Dan? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. So let's start with that because you and I have spoken about the importance of alumni, the importance of respecting alumni, respecting the history of a program, and the Jets just did that for you, and I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, they've been doing it for a few years. It's something they try to do every year with most of the alumni around, try to get as many guys back as possible. Show them a little love. It's always great for me, especially, growing up a Jets fan, being around the guys that I used to watch, on the field, get to be honored at the same time on the field with those guys during some pregame stuff and in other ways. Before COVID, it was a little different.
Yeah.
We used to have a full weekend of stuff going on with the Jets. I will say that they're one of the teams that did kind of, go all out for the alumni when they had alumni stuff. Some teams may do it just for a game or a preseason game or things like that, but the Jets did go all out. And before COVID, it was a great, a dinner weekend, an outing, some golf, stuff like that. But once COVID hit, it changed a little bit. They just bring guys back for a game weekend.
Yeah.
We have a little meeting and dinner and the night before, and then they honor us on the game before during pregame, whatever game they pick. So it's great to have. And like I said, it's always fun to be around guys I looked up to and watched when I was a kid to be on the same field as those guys.
Well, and you discuss, all the things that they've done for you and the importance. I mean, what does that do for you to have that love, to have that appreciation, to not be forgotten? What does that mean that the Jets here in present day are reaching back into history saying, let's make sure that we continue to show love to those players that we had brought in before?
Well, it actually lets you know that you're still thought of. They appreciate the road that's paved for the next generation, and that's what it's about for me. You know what I'm saying? When I'm on the field looking at the guys that I actually looked up to, the guys that are still around, just to see those guys honored, and pave the way for a person like me, who never thought at one point in time that would even be in a position like that. And for me to go on and you hear it from the guys who are younger than myself, they come up and say thanks for paving the way for those guys. So it's always great to be appreciated, man, when teams like that and other entities actually, just honor you for a moment, just to say thanks.
So going off of that notion and that reality, Syracuse goes and hires a coach in Fran Brown. When they hire Fran Brown, people say, who is Fran? What's Fran all about? And we hear about his ability to recruit and this and that. But then he steps to the podium this past Monday. And I was there. There were alumni that were in, including Bruce Williams and Rob Drummond and so on and so forth. So we're sitting there getting to know him. And I asked him the question about the alumni because you know how important that is to me and how important it is that you guys are represented, respected, and never forgotten. And I looked at him and said, Orange alumni, they're here in the room. They're looking at you right now. What do you want to say to them while you look out to them? And the first thing came out of his mouth was, come to practice. I want to see you at practice. I want you to be around the guys. They need to know about the history. It's important to him. He went on before my question, and talked about George DeLeon and spoke about Paul Pasqualoni, Steve Adazio. Going off of the Jets showing you love and Syracuse doing kind of the opposite to alumni in the last few years, what does it mean to hear the new coach say, I want you at practice. I want you to come here. You come to practice. You can come in my office. You can talk to me. What were you getting from his press conference?
That was the greatest thing I needed to hear. I wasn't in the room, but I watched a little bit, and that's part of what I got to see. I figured it might have been yourself or someone that has had these conversations over the last few years that would ask him that. When he answered, straight up, he wants the guys there, wants input, wants to help around with recruiting, and like you said, to start, everyone knows about him in recruiting, but. We've had these conversations, and I know you've had these conversations with Rob and a lot of other guys, Rob Drummond and a lot of other guys around, about the fact that there are so many of us that are still around the Northeast area, and that's the one area that Syracuse lacked in recruiting, and we could help. And for whatever reason, the past regime decided they didn't want the help, or just decided they didn't want to be in the area. That was great for me to hear. I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying? Dan, I've been up there enough at practices in the past, or trying to be. And just to see him come straight out and say that, I've had conversations with a lot of other alumni from Monday on. after hearing him speak about that. So we're all for it, man. To be honest with you, every one of the guys I spoke to, the guys that were in my era, the guys that came after my era, we're all for it. We're ready to help. We're looking forward to how the program shapes out from that standpoint, and we know that with him and his recruiting prowess and the way things are seeming to shape up right now, the program is on the right track.
Yeah, I mean, and so many things that he said are things that I've spoken with the alumni like yourself about, for Rob Drummond for over a decade about. A lot of guys from all different decades, all different eras, teams that won, teams that didn't necessarily win a lot of games, bowl teams, undefeated teams, teams that struggled. I spoke with guys that have been at Syracuse just a few 3-4 years ago to guys that it's been decades since they have been on the team, and the echoing chamber of verbiage has been very similar. It was, I don't feel loved. I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel welcome. I don't know anybody on the team. I can't talk to anybody on the team. I've never spoken at practice. I came to a game and I wasn't allowed to go in the Ernie Davis room at the Dome. I wasn't allowed to be on the sideline. There's been this disconnect, and hearing Fran talk about, I want you here, I want you to be a part of it, and then recognizing that history, and then going beyond that and saying, I want to be in this community. I want to help the people in this community. It's not just about the football team. It's not just about the university. I need to go out and I need to silently give to the community. I don't want cameras around when I'm helping the community. I don't want cameras around when I'm doing community service. I want to do these things because I'm from Camden, New Jersey, and Syracuse reminds me of Camden, New Jersey. What did you think about that part?
That was another thing that I took from what he said. So, my coach was Dick McPherson, and he was connected to Syracuse. He was Mr. Syracuse for a long time when it came to football and anything else. He was like the mayor. So hearing a guy who's relatively young coming into the program, not a lot of head coaching experience, but he has a lot of experience being around programs, especially being around very good programs. Yeah. Knowing the importance of being connected with the community. And as you said, he doesn't want the cameras, he doesn't want the accolades, just let him go do what he has to do and what he feels like he needs to do to be a part of the community. It was great for me to hear him say, he has a 2-year-old daughter, and he says he's going to feel connected all the way till she's 12 or 13 years old. Then he wants to go out and be a dad. That was awesome to hear. You know what I'm saying? So you got 10, 11, 12 years of him being connected to this program and being connected to the community. And then also saying, he's still, even though he may step back from coaching, still wants to be connected with the community. That goes a long way with me. For one thing, us on the football side of things would always say, it seems like we were the outcasts when it came to alumni. Lacrosse team, red carpet laid out. Basketball teams, red carpet laid out. Women's basketball team, red carpet laid out. But when it came to football, we have no idea why, and it just is for us. And it wasn't. It's not even about, as you said, Dan, about showing us love or anything like that. We just wanted to feel welcome. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't even feel welcome to the program. Myself and Drum. It was only just a couple of years ago where we actually finally toured the whole facility. And we're not alone in that. You know what I mean? So you got guys that played before me who had never seen the new facility because the program never reached out, or when guys reached out, you never got a response back. So, the program seems like it's heading in the right direction now with Fran. Hopefully everything that he talks about can come to fruition. We know it's not going to be overnight. But you have to lay the groundwork first. But from some of the decisions he's already made and some of the things that actually he's already talked about, it seems like it's headed in that right direction. So it's good to see.
That coming from Syracuse and New York Jets wide receiver alum Rob Carpenter here on the Fran Brown hiring and the Orange moving forward. You said something, and it was exactly what I wanted to talk about, and then you just said it within this last portion of our conversation. I can't take credit for this. Somebody had said this to me. They said, if you're going to be the head coach of this team, you have to be able to run for mayor in Syracuse and have a shot at winning. Like, you have to connect with the community. You have to be a part of the community so deeply that if you're the head coach of Syracuse football, you should be able to run for mayor and win. You brought up how Coach Mack was like the mayor of Syracuse. So I would love for you to dive a little bit deeper into that reality. And if you agree with that, that if you're going to represent the team, that you have to represent the city in such a way that the community would actually get behind you.
Absolutely. I was fortunate to play for Mac, and like I said, he was like the mayor of Syracuse. Just think about the basketball program. Boeheim has been there forever. He can say the same thing. You know what I mean? So when it comes to looking around at other top-notch programs around the country, you see these coaches that have been in place for a long time. It's the exact same scenario. You know, these guys literally could run for mayor in that city and they could win. So, you know, if Fran actually comes in and stays connected to the community, like I hope he does, and like it seems like he will, that could be reality. You know what I mean? So that would help the program moving forward so much more. When you have a coach that's connected, those connections help connections. You know what I mean? So I heard him talk about the recruiting prowess and where he wants to dive into first. It's the Northeast region, which, like I spoke about before, doesn't really or didn't really come into fruition with the past regimes for whatever reason. These guys actually just kind of, I won't say totally skipped this area, but they kind of just skimmed over it and didn't look for the 5 stars and the 4 stars from this area because I guess they thought the other bigger programs from around the country could just snatch these guys up. I'm here to say, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other guys that you will speak to and probably will hear from that will say there's a lot of guys in this region that would love to go to Syracuse. Syracuse is this region's football team. You know what I mean? So, when I was coming through, it was Syracuse, Penn State, Boston College, Pitt around the area. So when you have those programs here in Syracuse kind of falling by the wayside, hopefully Frank can get back to what we know and what he knows that this area is a hotbed for some college football players that can reshape the program.
Well, and something that came up, and I have been a proponent for this, as you know, is taking care of the 6-hour radius and appreciating the kids that are in the community of Central and Upstate New York. I'm beyond, it's what I learned growing up was not every statement warrants a reaction, warrants an answer, a response. And I've realized that if someone gives me the statement, there's no one in Syracuse, there's no one in Central and Upstate New York, there's no one in the state of New York, Rob Carpenter, Amityville, New York. When they say there's nobody there, I don't even feel the need to waste my breath on those people. And the 6-hour radius, the importance of that, Christian Brothers Academy, you can ride a tricycle from the Ensley Center and get there in like 15 minutes or so. He, looking at his want to help the Northeast, his connection to the Northeast, what I don't understand is past regime, over 40 schools, 40 college football institutions, and we're talking about D1A FBS in a lot of cases, over 40 schools came to visit CBA this year in 2023. And they weren't all in the Northeast.
Right.
There were teams that were 10 hours away. And to see 2025 kids get offered, to see the consistent recruitment of Sire Torrance, who played wide receiver and DB at CBA, and his recruitment is now open. All of that tells me something. That was before a state title. That was going into the season. That was a few games into the season. But there are coaches in Central and Upstate New York that are really trying without much of any help to get out there. And they don't get the respect that they deserve. The kids don't get the respect that they deserve. And when we talk about, your teams that you were on, Rob, and we talk about Syracuse in general, Syracuse had their best seasons and best games and best teams and best moments with 1 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, no stars. Guys that fell through the cracks in Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, so on and so forth. Donovan McNabb wasn't a 5-star. You weren't a 5-star. Rob Drummond wasn't a 5-star. Joe Morris wasn't a 5-star. It's not a school. See, there's this belief by some that Syracuse has to go and find 4 and 5 stars. They have to go to Florida. They have to go to Oklahoma. They have to go to Texas. They have to go to California. And the reality of the fact is everybody's going there. But the kids that are here, Derek Gore, he's in the NFL right now, coming from the New York area. Latavius Murray, they said a running back's going to last 2.5 years in the NFL. Believe he's been in for a decade. Onondaga County. Dorsey Levens won a Super Bowl. Servassier Dennis, not recruited by Syracuse, goes to Pitt, wins an ACC title, fights for another ACC title, gets linebacker of the week multiple times in the ACC, is on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers more than halfway through the season right now as a rookie. There's so much to be said about New York, about New Jersey, about Pennsylvania, about Vermont, about New Hampshire, about Massachusetts, about Connecticut. I mean, I remember Irv Phillips coming in, one of the best receivers Syracuse had in recent history. One of those possession guys that you could trust on, setting records, breaking records. Irv Phillips came from Connecticut with a giant chip on his shoulder. Jerome Smith, 1,000-yard back, came from Delaware with a giant chip on his shoulder. So what can you say, being a Northeast recruit, being a New York guy, about the fact that you don't have to have 4 stars, you don't have to have 5 stars, you just have to have a coach that is willing to put the work in to find you?
It's one of those things where the programs that only search for 4 and 5 stars, those are programs that have the groundwork laid already, though. So, when you're talking about the Northeast, coming to get guys from the Northeast, Central New York, Long Island, New York City, Jersey, PA, those are guys that you get to form your team to lay the groundwork for a long time. Most of those guys will be in school 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
The 5 stars, you can count on being in school for 3 years and moving on, especially when it comes to football. Those 4 and 5 stars in basketball, of course, those guys can take 1 year and be gone. But the better teams and the teams that actually last the longest with sustained winning and sustained success has the groundwork laid with those guys that were unheralded. You go back to my days or guys or times after that. Pasqualoni was a great recruiter around the Northeast region, and that laid a lot of the groundwork for Syracuse to have sustained success for a while. Even before I was at Syracuse, there were guys that were on the team 3, 4, 5 years that had to prove themselves, stayed there, put in the work, and it paid off. But that's how you actually do it. When you are lucky enough to grab a 4 or 5 star guy here and there, or a few, you're actually the team is actually putting in the work, the coaches are putting in the work, the players are putting in the work, because when those guys come to visit, they get to see exactly what is going on from the guys who are actually on the team. So they know what it takes. They can look around and see that. And I'll go back to myself with this. When I was coming out, I looked around after my transfer. I looked around like, okay, I can go to these other places, but at Syracuse, I can be close enough to home and know that this is a team that actually has been there, has laid the groundwork, and I could be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I could go help out being a part of this. I know I'm good enough to play at all these other schools, and I could probably play well at all these other schools, bigger name schools, but I can put the hometown team on the map with myself on it. And you look around, those guys actually willing to do that. I see enough and I hear enough about high school guys willing to go to Syracuse, but no one's coming to knock on the door, so they end up going to other bigger name places. It's just been unfortunate over the last 10 years or so. But as you said, you just named off a bunch of guys who actually weren't big recruits who are in the NFL.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a big name in high school or a big star on your chest to make yourself into an NFL player. Just would need to be willing to put in the work and have a program that's willing to accept you to put in the work.
Justin Pugh,
Yep.
straight off the couch, asked to come back after a
Yep.
decade in the NFL. Pennsylvania guy, not highly recruited. I mean, you look at Jay Bromley, third round pick to the New York Jets. He was a 0-star, and he had one offer in the 11th hour, and it came from Syracuse.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it's just it's in the DNA of Syracuse, right? It's blue collar, chip on the shoulder. I'm going to go here and I'm going to run through a wall and I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to make it happen. And you talked about transferring, you talked about coming in. When you transferred, Rob, it was a different world. You weren't getting paid to transfer. You weren't going through this college NFL free agency mashup where NIL is not connected to the transfer portal. However, coaches have told me and administrators have told me that they've had student athletes come to them with their cell phone and say, look, this coach just sent me this message. It says if you get in the transfer portal, I'm going to give you 10 grand. I'm going to give you 30 grand. I'm going to give you 50 grand. So when you transferred, there's a year in residency. There wasn't an immediate ability to go out and play. You had to really think about your decision because once you made it, you had to be patient. You had to hope it worked out. You had to hope the coaching staff that recruited you stayed. You weren't getting paid for anything. You weren't getting lured into the portal with money. So from your transfer back then to how transferring looks now, I'd love to get your thoughts because you lived in an entirely different world.
Well, like you said, I knew the decision that I was making, I had to live with it and actually just had to go put in the work. And that was what it was all about. So when I decided to transfer, I knew I was going to have to sit out a year and actually just be someone outside the program looking in, even though I was part of but I still had to put in the work to let everyone know that yes, I'm here and will be willing to fight for the spot that I'm looking to fight for when I'm actually given that opportunity. And nowadays, college football, college sports in general has been big business for a long time. We know that. I've never been against players getting paid. You put in the work. The schools are making all the money. Coaches are making all the money. It's been unfair for a long time. I'll stand on that. But now with the way guys are actually making the money, it's just business. And I know a lot of old school people kind of hate it, but I'm all for it. If you're willing to go to a place, put in the work, and can be compensated for it, the way college sports is. And as I said, it's a big business. That's the thing. It's business.
Yeah.
The way it is now. And don't get me wrong, it was like that a long time ago, long before I came to college sports. NIL was just boosters. So I mean, it wasn't legal, but it basically was the same thing. The way it is now, the only thing I don't like, and it's funny, I had this conversation with a former agent yesterday. The only thing I don't like about it is that there seems to be no end game to transfer. So make some more money, and granted, I'm all for them from making their money, like I said, and then stay at this school for 1 year and decide to go back into the transfer portal again. I think that's just a little over the top, as many times as a guy can go in. And I'm not, pointing the finger at him at any point in time, but the one who actually comes to mind right now, and I can just because it's happening at this moment, is the former Clemson QB DJ Ongalele. He plays at Clemson for a couple of years, transfers to Oregon State, and now is back in the transfer portal again,
Yeah.
Or thinking about going into the portal again, or trying to decide whether he wants to go into the NFL. I just think there needs to be a cap on the transfer portal. That's all. But as far as kids making the money, I have absolutely no problem with it at all. Unfortunately, I'm 30 years too late to be in that program, because myself and former guys always talk about that as well. We didn't get stipends or anything like that because it was against the rules, but the way college teams can actually take care of their players now, because there's so many guys that come from, unfortunate situations, and don't have the funds to actually even eat when you're in school. So it's nice to see that, and we get it, that the teams will have, 3 meals for their players per day, but things after that to enjoy the college experience, It's unfortunate because a lot of guys just don't have that the funds or anything else to actually just enjoy it from that perspective. So guys actually making their money, and at the same time, when their college careers are done, they have a head start. You know what I'm saying? So they have a great head start to go forward in life. If the NFL or the NBA or anything like that is not in their future, so it's a good thing for them right now.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think I mean, the NCAA calls itself a nonprofit organization, and it makes billions of dollars, which is insane. And so, I mean, I am all for student athletes making something, because I look at it like this. Like you said, there's a lot of student athletes that will never play pro. And they are never going to make a team. And maybe they don't want to go overseas. Maybe they don't want to go through this or go through that. Maybe they don't have the ability to, or, maybe they don't have the resources to do those things. So the reality is most student athletes in college are, the only chance they have to make money playing the sport they love is in college. Right. And so if you take that away from them, you're funneling out all of these student athletes for a select tiny few that might make millions of dollars, might make hundreds of thousands of dollars. But there's all these other people that they came to college, they busted their butt, they had no money coming in. Now they go out, they got no money going out. Right. And some people say, well, you got a free education. And that's great, but a free education is not going to get his mom out of that bad neighborhood. A free education is not going to help her take care of her child. So the reality of it all is something should be done. The problem with NIL is that there's no parameters. There's nothing holding it together. And the luring, like I said, of someone into the transfer portal has created free agency. And when I saw DJ go in there again, I thought to myself, I thought you couldn't. But is he a grad transfer? So is there a loophole? Because normally you go once and you could play immediately. If you go again, then you can't play immediately. But the way that things are right now, it seems like the NCAA doesn't want to rock the boat with student athletes. They don't want to upset anybody. They don't want to piss anybody off. In the past, Syracuse had a guy come in, a lineman come in. I think it was John Raymond came in. And he came to Syracuse because it had to do with his family. And he wanted to be able to be closer to his mom and this and that. They didn't grant him a waiver to play. And then Tate Martell says, I don't want to be in Ohio State anymore because they got Justin Fields coming in. So he goes to Miami and they give him a waiver to play. So one guy does it for his family, no waiver. Another guy does it because he doesn't want to compete again. Well, I don't want to say that because I don't know his situation. But he leaves, and Tate, it just looks like, from the outside looking in, it looks like Tate's going, hey, I don't want to compete up here. I want to play down here. And they gave him the opportunity. So you say no to a family man, and you say yes to a guy who seemingly is doing it just for, the sports reason of it all, to get on the field. It's been backward, but now it seems like we're living in a world where they don't want to frustrate anyone, they don't want to upset anyone. There just needs to be parameters around it and some type of protection around it, because I've talked to coaches. I said, you got to coach now. You got to scheme, you got to get the right assistants in. You have to coach. You have to be able to ad-lib on the fly. You got to be a good game manager and time manager. And on top of all of that, you have to recruit. And on top of all of that, there's 2 national signing days now. And on top of all of that, you have to re-recruit your student athletes every single year. So if you're a football coach and you got 100 people on your roster, 85 scholarship kids, you have to re-recruit your entire team every single year, plus recruit once you're in there. And I've talked to guys that are going bowling this season. Alex Golish of South Florida going up against Syracuse. When he came into South Florida, he had to find at least half a roster. He had to look for 50 guys to make that team up, because guys left maybe when he came in, guys left when the coach was let go. But the situation that we're in right now is a unique one with the transfer portal, Rob, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, that you have to recruit your guys, re-recruit your guys, and you also have to be advantageous in the transfer portal. And what a lot of people don't know is a student athlete doesn't even have to tell their head coach they're in the portal. All they have to do is tell compliance.
Right. It's kind of funny, Dan, because most of college coaches would rest on their laurels once the season is over. They know their program, they know their depth on their team, and they would basically just say, all right, we're going to go into the offseason program. We have this, and we're set, and we just need to make it up with these recruits. But as you just said, there's guys hitting the transfer portal literally the day after. Well, they're making their intentions known they're going to hit the transfer portal the day after the seasons are over. So it's I don't want to call it organized chaos because it kind of seems like that a bit. Once the portal opens and so many guys have gone in. I think this year was the most guys that have gone into the portal on the first day that they were allowed to enter.
Yeah.
But as you said, a coach really has to have a finger on his team to know how guys are thinking. What are their intentions as soon as the season is over. Hopefully most coaches or hopefully the coaches that don't, have to worry so much about it, their door is open.
Yeah.
So their players can come talk to them anytime. A lot of coaches, players don't feel that they can do that. They're more connected to their position coach than they might be to the head coach. I was fortunate enough, again, with Coach McPherson there, his door was always open, so you can go and talk to him any point in time. I was connected to my position coach, Ivan Ferris and Dick McPherson at the same time. We sat down and had plenty of talks about things that didn't have to do with football. Just basically had to do with life or what was going to be going on after my career was over at Syracuse. So, if coaches are in tune like that and they're not just so far above their program that they feel like their door is not open, those are the guys that actually have programs that are really good. We also see that some coaches don't enjoy the portal. They don't want to even entertain taking guys from the portal because they just feel like those guys actually quit on their former team, so they wouldn't take them on their team. That's unfortunate as well because you don't necessarily know the reasons totally why a guy might be leaving or might want to leave and enter the transfer portal. And if you don't actually even entertain that thought, that's unfortunate. That was also another reason why I actually chose to come to Syracuse after Notre Dame. Don't get me wrong, because Syracuse had always been a favorite of mine as I was growing up. But the one thing Coach Mike did was I came in, he pulled me right in the office. And we sat down, we had a conversation about the transfer, what would be going on, what was happening in my life at the time. And it necessarily didn't have to do with football. So that was the one thing that impressed me the most when I was making my transfer from Notre Dame at that point in time. So it's just the portal is one of those things now. It's a gift and a curse. But at the moment, like you said, I don't think the NCAA wants to rock the boat with the way they can grant and deny guys making transfers. There does need to be some rules put on it just a bit, as we both spoke about. But for the most part, right now, it is open season.
Yeah.
That it's basically college free agency. So what's going to happen is eventually it'll slow down because so many guys jumped into the portal at one time are not going to get their wishes granted. They're not going to be able to make transfers like they think they would be able to, or they thought they would. So that will have an effect on guys later on. And knowing that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, even though some more money could be made, it might be advantageous to stay right where they are and get what they're getting at that moment. So, the way it seems like right now, it's just an open door policy, and it's like the wild wild west of transferring in college football. But things will change. They'll slow down to a point where it'll be manageable, and so much craziness will be going on when you think about NIL and transfer portal.
Well, unfortunately, they say that sometimes you gotta let somebody fall on their face.
Right.
You got to let the mistakes happen, right? When there's a mother duck, she can go around and she can hold up the baby, or she can let the duck fall and let it figure out a way to stand up itself and be able
Right.
to move forward. And I feel like that's what we're kind of looking at right now. Is we're looking at this, okay, maybe you got to let people make some bad decisions. let them be selfish, let them not really think it through, so that on a grand scale, we can see what's kind of ridiculous, what's working, what's not working. What I don't like about that, and it's just the reality of life, is there are people that are going to make mistakes, and there are people that are going to mess with their careers, and they might not be able to salvage certain things. Right? There are 1,184 the last time I checked, 1,184 players in the portal. 1,184.
Right.
And by my math, I think last year, of those that went in, took their name out, and then transferred somewhere else, at the time that I was looking, there was 1,100 that still didn't have a home.
Right.
And this musical chairs things, what people don't get is, you might come from a bad situation, right? You might not have a good coach. There might be a coaching change. You might have been promised something, whatever. So there are people going into the portal because something happened beyond their control, and they don't feel comfortable being there. There's also, I want to be closer to my family. There's also, this isn't what I signed up for. But then there's people that jump into the portal saying, I don't want to compete. They told me I was going to be the starting quarterback. I don't want to. They just brought some other guy in. How dare they do that? There's also people that go into the portal saying, well, they're giving me $50K, but I was just promised $120K if I leave and go somewhere else. Right. So because there's no parameters, you can leave for any reason. Before, you were supposed to tell the NCAA what you were doing, and if you applied for a waiver, what the reasoning was. And then they could believe you or not believe you, help you or not help you. But going into the transfer portal now, what kids don't understand is you got recruited before. You might have been recruited by one school, 100 schools. But you got recruited before. You had the opportunity to go and play, not have to pay for your college, and have this great life ahead of you to play the sport you love and hopefully get an education, take care of your life after your sport. That is a great thing to have. That is a great opportunity to have. At the same time, you may not be re-recruited the same way. You may not be re-recruited at all. Because you're going into the portal going, look at how good I am, look at all the things I did, look at the coaches that texted me during the season and shook my hand after the game and whispered in my ear. But that was before those other guys got in the portal. That was before that receiver from Alabama got in the portal. That was before DJ out in Oregon State got in the portal. So now you may not have a home. Now you got 1 year under your belt, maybe a couple years under your belt. You don't have a degree. You don't have a team that wants you. You have no home and you're stranded. And people don't tell enough stories, and this is something that I'm really going to be working on, is telling the stories of those that get trapped in the portal.
Yeah. That's the unfortunate thing. Like I said, that's probably going to happen, and that's the reason why I think in a few years there won't be as many numbers going into the portal at one time. There's going to be guys who will have definites going into the portal. It won't be just a free for all because, like you just said, and like I said, unfortunately, they're going to just say we need to let a few guys fail. Trying this before anything changes. So once those guys actually, like you said, fall flat on their face and have nowhere else to go, the numbers are going to change. The guys are going to make, better decisions about it. Yeah. There will be longer conversations had with coaching staffs that they're currently on, family members, coaching staffs that they currently or they potentially could currently go to. From that standpoint, it's a bad thing, and there will be a lot of stories out there, guys who were potential NFL picks that actually just kind of fell by the wayside and just were swept under the rug because they made a bad choice to enter the transfer portal, or something other unfortunate happening to them. But there needs to be a cap on it. I do believe, and that's the reason why. Because we just don't want to see so many bad decisions made. Because like you just said, a guy can make a snap decision because a coach texted him during the season about how well he was playing. But like you said, if he enters a transfer portal, you don't know how many other guys are going to go into it, and there could be 5 or 6 other guys that are rated higher than him. That at that point in time, that could be much better than him. At that point in time, that the coach is actually looking at, and they're in there. So. That coaching staff, that university says, you know what, we'll take this guy rather than taking him. So it's just going to be a bad situation for a few years after this. But like you said, and like we both know, 1,184 guys going into the portal on day one, whereas last year I think it was only like 700. It's going to be the Wild Wild West for a year or two more.
Yeah.
But it'll work itself out.
Well, and there used to be that you had to wait a year, like we talked about, like you had to do. If you went in conference, some conferences made you wait 2 years.
Right.
They said, okay, you know what? You can leave Syracuse for Duke, but you got to sit out for 2 years.
Right.
So there was that side of it. The one thing I do like about the transfer portal is coaches can't tell you anymore where to go and where not to go. They can't say you can't go to anybody that we're playing within the next 4 years. You can't go to this school because I just don't want you to. I mean, a coach could literally make a wish list and say, you can't go to any of the teams in our conference, any of the teams on the – I mean, think about it. Dino Babers, for instance, could have made a list before the transfer portal and said you can't go anywhere in the ACC, so that's 13 schools. Can't go to Notre Dame, so that's 14 schools. You can't go to any of these schools in the MAC because I don't want one of my players going to the MAC. I used to coach there. You can't go down to Florida to any of the schools in Florida. You can't go to any of the schools in North Carolina because we recruit those areas.
Right.
And then the kid, I mean, there was a kid that I spoke with from Syracuse who went into the portal because he told me, he was like, I did everything that I was asked to, everything they asked me to do, I did it. I kept pushing. They wanted me to do this, I did that. Want me to lose weight, want me to work this out more. I did all the things they asked me to do, and they wouldn't play me. And then somebody stuck up for me, and the coach was like, do you want to be in his situation? And the guy backed off. So he said, I told the coach I got to transfer. So he decides to transfer. The coach puts on the list the only 3 schools that really wanted this kid. So he wanted to get out of a bad situation, and the coach said to him at Syracuse, you can't go to any of these schools. And he said, Coach, these are the schools recruiting me. Coach didn't care. So to me, that's one of the things I like about the transfer portal is you cannot punish a kid and keep a kid, because this another thing that's not talked about. If you leave Syracuse, what if the schools that are going after you are NC State, Rutgers, and Indiana, and your coach says you can go anywhere you want except for those 3 places?
But the uproar about that came about because there was never a consequence for coaches leaving. So
Right.
a coach could actually decide he wants to leave and go do exactly what he's restricting the kid from doing. So there was never any consequence for coaches doing that. So that was the big uproar, and I was all for it. There's never been consequences for coaches leaving a program and leaving kids high and dry that they recruited, saying that they would be there,
Yeah.
and going to another place for more money, going to a better situation that they feel that they were in, and these kids were stuck. So yeah, I applauded that change where coaches couldn't restrict players in the transfer portal going to wherever they wanted to go. And I do believe that was the reason why it came up, because there's never been a consequence for coaches. Even when coaches have actually been punished by the NCAA, they could actually just say, you know what, all right, I'm out of here. I'll go to the NFL.
Yeah.
So that's been the big uproar between the difference between the coaches and players, and in unfortunate circumstances. And we've got tons of horror stories about that over all the years, but that change needed to be made, and it's made. So there'll be more changes going on and on in about the portal in college sports. But we all know, especially when it comes to football, there's probably going to be 2 conferences
Yeah.
in the future at some point, and that's basically just going to be the way college football is. And there won't be this uproar over what we just saw with Florida State being left out of the championship series. So it'll basically be at some point in time, maybe, that this college playoff system will come into play. But the money has fueled it. It's always been big business, and this transfer portal is basically just part of it.
Yeah, and I said over 2 years ago the SEC would break away eventually, and not only did I say that, I said, I kind of an addendum to it that I think the Big Ten made the decisions with the West Coast teams to break with the SEC, and if they somehow can get Clemson and Florida State in the SEC, and they can get Notre Dame to go to the Big Ten, now we're looking at a world where all of the major players would be in 2 conferences, and who would say that this isn't a college football playoff national champion? if they decide to have their own. And I think there's going to be a college football playoff tier 1, college football playoff tier 2, and I'll continue to talk about that as it's something I prognosticated. I don't want it to happen, but haven't been proven wrong yet with the moves that have been made. So
it's headed in that direction.
Yeah,
you're probably going to be right. It's headed in that direction.
Final note here, 2 things. Number 1 is a comment on your career. Number 2 is a final word that you get to have here, Rob, on Wake Up Call this morning. You spent 2 seasons at Syracuse, yet you had 1,656 receiving yards in just 2 seasons. 10 touchdowns, 5 a season receiving. Yards from scrimmage just shy of 1,800 yards. Bill Schaar, Marvin Graves were your quarterbacks. What can you say about your situation in Syracuse to be one of the best receivers to ever come through Syracuse, and you did it in like 5 seconds?
I worked hard. It was a different situation back when I was playing. There wasn't the wide open offenses that were around like there are today. We didn't at Syracuse. We had a very option offense, man. We didn't have 3 and 4 wide receiver sets at any point in time. It was just one of those things where when you got the ball in your hand, you had to make a play. So, and don't get me wrong, George DeLeon as our offensive coordinator, he designed a lot of plays to get us open and get us in position where we could make big plays. It's just that you had to go out and do it. I wasn't fortunate enough to have, the greatest quarterbacks in the history of Syracuse. I would have loved to have been on the field with Don McPherson or Donovan McNabb. But I was fortunate enough to play with quarterbacks who were competent enough to actually, play the game and play the game well. I will always say there was a backup quarterback on the team that helped me out a lot with those stats. His name was Mark McDonald. Anytime Mark actually was in the game, I was his number 1 go-to guy. And anytime there was a pass called coming out of the huddle, he would literally say, "Be on the lookout. It's coming." So, I just had to do my job and get open. So, but like I said, I was fortunate enough to be where DeLeon, Coach DeLeon actually as offensive coordinator scripted up a lot of plays where even though the majority of the time there was only 2 receivers on the field and defenses could actually, could lock in and double cover us at times. But we were still able to have plays scripted up and schemed up enough to get us open. But I will always say if I was actually in one of those offenses that are around right now, I could have had a 2,000-yard season. I do believe that. The way the passes actually run are in the game now, 4 wide receiver sets. Teams can't double cover. A lot of man-to-man out there. I would have loved to have played against man-to-man on a regular basis in the days that I was there. So there would have been a lot more big plays actually happening at that point in time when I was there.
You get the final word, Rob. What do you want to say to Fran Brown?
I hope everything that he actually has spoke about in this press conference and the way things are going on, comes to fruition because there's guys like myself that actually would love to help the program out. I do believe he's got his nose down to the ground and he knows what it's going to take place to, bring the program back. He spoke about it. He wants the guys who are actually on the team now, the guys who are actually coming in to know the history of the program. That's one thing I was fortunate enough to know in my years there, that Ben Schwartzwalder would come back and speak to us every Friday. Jim Brown would actually come back and speak to the team. We were lucky that Floyd Little was around to come back and speak to the team. I was fortunate enough to be in school at the same time with his daughter. So, he was around the program. We got to know the history of Syracuse football. And hopefully he actually brings that back. And from what he said, it seems like it's going in the right direction. And we'd be actually myself and me speaking for the rest of the alum that are around who actually don't get the chance to speak out. I'm pretty sure I can say definitively that we would be glad to help out.
Yeah, no, and I know that firsthand from you, and I appreciate you so very much for the amount of care and appreciation that you have for Syracuse, as well as for the football program, and for just wanting to help these kids out. And beyond everything else, I can speak man-to-man to say that I have the utmost respect for the way that you've treated me from day 0, and you brought me in like family too. So I can't thank you enough for that, Rob, and I think very highly of you. I look forward to seeing you around the program. And selfishly, I look forward to seeing you in Syracuse so we can hang out more.
Yeah, I'll be up there enough, Dan. We'll catch up.
Well, be good, be safe, give my best to your family, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Thanks, Dan. I'll see you around.
All right, take care. that coming here from Rob Carpenter one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We'll take a quick step aside, and we'll get ready for fantasy football right after this on Wake Up Call.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, here where sports meets that thing called life. We here in the broadcast, of course, and when it comes to fantasy football, we have our own video for fantasy football. So I'm going to end this video here from our travel studios in the wonderful sunny Florida, our second home of Dan Tortora Broadcast Media and of Wake Up Call. So happy to be down here covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as throughout history covering UCF, South Florida, Miami, Florida State, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Tampa Bay Bucks, and the Miami Dolphins, among others, including recruiting in the great state of Florida. So we will end this video, start a new video, and you will